Rodgers, I'm supposed to say a few words to you. Do you want to hear them? You'll find things a little strange out there at first, but you'll get adjusted without any serious difficulty, I'm sure of that. Your record here is good, above average, and that's always a good indication. But you find people pretty unpredictable. Don't let things you'll come up against confuse you too much.
Report to gate number 5.
Hello, Jim. This is your long-lost brother.
Hank, where are you? Why didn't you wire me?
Take it easy, Jim. Aren't you used to surprises by now?
Well, I should be. Gosh, kid, it's great to have you back.
It's good to be back. I'd forgotten what it was like over here. Just being able to make a 5-cent phone call or something.
Well, forget it, kid. From now on, we're starting all over again. Look, how'd you like to work with me? I'm onto something that's right up your alley.
Swell. Something really hot, huh?
It's so hot it's on ice.
Hey, cut the double talk, reporter. My reflexes aren't back to normal. Make it simple.
I'll tell you all about it when I see you. Look, do you remember Pete's place on 8th? Well, meet me there in 15 minutes. I have to pick something up.
Okay, Pete's place. Even that sounds good. Like old home week.
And we'll make it just that. Old home week. So long, kid.
Goodbye, Jim. Not bad.
That's just a boss special. Say, how'd you like a slug of good scotch? I've been saving this for myself. But since you're Jim Rogers' brother, okay. Yeah, we don't get this often.
I'd forgotten what a label looked like. That kind of a label.
You been away long?
A few years. Working for the government up north.
Oh. Now, Jim, be glad to see you.
2 nickels, please.
Yes.
I'm not gonna play that same number again. Aren't there any other tunes in that jukebox?
Here you are, lady.
Did my brother phone tonight?
Jim Rogers never lets anybody know where he is.
Yeah, but you think he would have phoned tonight.
Hey, listen, what did you want to see Jim Rogers about, huh?
Yeah. This guy is Jim Rogers' brother, Eddie.
Oh, are you Jim Rogers' brother? Hey, look, fella, what's your other name?
Hank.
Hank, huh? Say, listen, Hank, Jim has got to get this, see? He's got to get it just as soon as he comes in. Right away, you understand? Well, wait a minute. How do I know that you're Jim Rogers' brother? You don't look much like him. Does he, Joe?
There's a family resemblance. I'll see that no one gets it but Jim, Eddie. Honest.
Yeah, Jim used to always give me $5. Thanks, okay.
See that you buy some food, fella.
Yeah, vitamins are. Yeah.
Eddie gives Jim tips occasionally, see? Knows every grifter in the business. They say he's just plain dopey. Me? I say he's just smart.
Yeah, Jim always had a knack of picking the right guys. If he don't show up soon, I'm gonna bust that jukebox.
Now, that's life, ain't it? Some guys have 1,000,000 dames looking for them. Me? I'm just looking for a dame.
Tell Jim I went to the apartment.
You wouldn't be following the lady, would you?
I don't follow anybody. I'm no cop.
I'm no cop neither. But I'd sure beat the pavement following that.
Paper, mister? Yep. Thank you. Hey, taxi.
I'm going north, but you gotta share the ride.
Okay.
Where to?
1518
Chris.
One at a time, one at a time.
1518 Griswold Street.
Okay.
The world keeps getting smaller, doesn't it? Keep it. You can buy me a beer sometime.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I never learned to whistle.
What are you doing here?
I might ask you the same question.
You've got a nerve breaking into a strange apartment.
Yeah, haven't we?
You must be in the wrong apartment. This is Jim Rodgers. He's a very old friend of mine.
He's my brother. Now, may I sit down? My feet hurt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Audrey Brandon. You see, I've known Jim for years, and he never mentioned having a brother.
He won't have one if he doesn't show up soon.
Oh, well, you see, Jim's on a very important story.
Oh, is he really?
I don't suppose he told you how really important. It'll mean a big scoop for him. Have you been away a long time?
Long enough. Say, did Jim tell you where he keeps the scotch?
Yes. He trusts me with his private key. I'll get you a drink.
I'm glad I came to visit.
I couldn't find the scotch, but I think you'll like this. Jim and I dreamed it up in a mad moment. 1 jigger of rum, 1 gin, 1 brandy,
What, no strawberry jam?
just a touch of peanut butter. To Jim's quick return.
Tell me about your other wild moments with Jim.
Well, Jim's very attractive, kind,
We noticed those traits about him when he was 11 years old.
and I like him. But there are no stars in my eyes.
Jim's?
When Jim looks at anything too long, he only sees a story in it. Gets a little dull hanging on the arm of a typewriter.
I don't write. Wrong approach. You're talking too fast. Take it easy. Build yourself up. Maybe she'd like to know what you used to do. In 1936, I organized the jungle safari. We called it Safari Incorporated. We went in search of a buried treasure
Mr. Rodgers, you might as well know from the start, my interest is confined to those people who've already found treasure. Good, hard, substantial treasure that I can see and feel for myself.
Meaning?
The meaning's obvious, but there's an even better way of putting it. It isn't in the number of thoughts we have, but in the things we finally make of those thoughts. Unquote. And now that that's perfectly clear,
Perfectly.
I have to be going. Tell Jim I'll wait again some other night.
Glad you waited tonight.
I'm glad you're glad.
Please, lady, don't look at me that way. It reminds me of the jungle beast you didn't let me tell you about. Uh-oh.
Happy hunting.
Jim, where's your copy? You promised it to me 2 days ago.
Wait a minute. This is Hank Rogers, Jim's brother.
Oh, I didn't know you had one. This is Ed Harris of the Daily Times. Is Jim around?
No, he isn't.
Well, he's got me in a spot. I gotta have his stuff today. Any idea where he is?
Your guess is as good as mine, Mr. Harris. He didn't come home last night.
Oh, he's a great feature writer, but he goes off on tangents. The last time he got lost, we found him in a West Virginia coal mine waiting for a cave-in.
Look, Mr. Harris, I just came into town. I'm anxious to find Jim, too.
Well, you might try the Walden place out on Euclid Avenue, and if you find him, tell him to please hurry his stuff in here. He's 2 days late.
Walden's on Euclid?
You can also tell him I still think he's wasting his time out there. The newspapers say old man Walden is getting along just fine. Goodbye.
Hello, I'm looking for Jim Rodgers. I was told I might find him here.
Why, I know there must be some mistake. There's no Mr. Rodgers here.
He's a reporter. His editor seems to think he might be with Mr. Walden.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rodgers hasn't been here. No one is being admitted to see Mr. Walden. That's the doctor's order.
Thank you. Missed me. Want to try again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. I really didn't see you.
Forgiven. Aren't you Margaret Walden?
Why, yes.
Do you happen to know Jim Rodgers?
Yes, of course. Do you know Jim? He's awfully nice. I've talked with him quite often. He's been spending a lot of time with my father.
That's why I'm here. I'm looking for Jim.
What's your name?
Rodgers, like in Jim Rodgers, only Hank. That's right, brothers. I'd kind of like to see your father, too.
Oh, I'm sorry, but they won't even let me see him.
Wouldn't even let you see him. I read in the paper where he was improving.
Yes, I know. Oh, he's just got to get well. Forgive me, I'm almost on the verge of talking to myself. But I haven't seen my father in days. I can't understand it. His secretary can go into his room, people from his office, my aunt. But every time I try, the nurse or doctor stops me. Maybe if we went in together, you and I, maybe then they'd let me see him.
Okay, let's try. Nurses and doctors don't frighten me. But look, Miss Walden, so that it won't be embarrassing, why don't we pretend that you already know me, that you met me through Jim some time ago?
All right, Mr. Rodgers, it's a deal.
Margaret.
Aunt Agatha.
Margaret, you've been told the strangers are not welcome in the house now.
But he wants to talk to Father on important business.
Mr. Madison, vice president of the corporation, is taking care of all my brother's business affairs during his illness. You can ask for him at the city offices.
But why can't he talk to Father? The paper says he's better.
Will you please take a request, Mr. Madison?
But I really wanted to see Jim Rodgers.
Mr. Rodgers hasn't been here for a week.
But Jim was here 2 days ago. He talked with the doctor and Mr. Madison.
Margaret, you're imagining things again. There's been no one in the house but our friends and relatives since your father's illness.
That's not true. Don't believe her, Mr. Rodgers. I talked to Jim. Really, I did. I talked to him, do you hear? You didn't know that, did you? But that's one time I fooled you.
Stop it. Margaret, go to your room. She's been dreadfully upset about her father. Imagines things. We're worried about her nerves. After all, she isn't too strong, and you never know under strain when the mind might really snap.
Oh, I see.
Margaret, why is it you're never on time? You know I needed the car.
I'm sorry, Audrey. I mean, Miss Brandon.
You've been crying again.
I didn't mean to.
Hello, Miss Brandon.
Why, hello. Go to your room, dear. Hunting again? There's no big game in this vicinity.
I'm not so sure. You're here.
I'm not big game quarry. I'm just a working girl, Mr. Walden's secretary.
His secretary? I was a little surprised to find you here.
I might say it's quite a surprise finding you here.
Well, I was looking for Jim. He didn't show up last night, and his paper said he might be at the Walden place.
Jim's in Emporia.
Say that again?
Yes, in Emporia, working on a story. He phoned me early this morning.
Oh, that's fine, fine. Okay, I give up. It's a woman's world.
I'm driving into town now. May I give you a lift?
Yeah. Oh, yes, thanks.
Oh, no, she's too young for you.
But you're not.
Excuse me. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, good morning, Audrey.
Good morning. I'm leaving now, Mr. Madison. That's Rodgers' brother.
I assumed as much. Paul, you haven't said good morning to Audrey.
Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning, Paul. Don't forget, you have a luncheon appointment at 1. I'll see you later.
Very well. Give me the gun, Paul. The gun.
I haven't got the gun. Audrey told you about the gun, didn't she?
Told you again and again you must not carry a gun. It's dangerous.
I bet she didn't tell you where she was last night. I know. I saw her.
She was with Rodgers' brother. He arrived unexpectedly. You'll have to go back to Emporia.
Then I can have my gun back?
No, not now. In fact, not at all.
But suppose when I get to Emporia something happens?
Nothing's going to happen. Cold. Ice cold.
Ice cold. Very funny. Cold as ice. Mr. Madison. Quick.
Margaret! What are you doing, Margaret?
I thought maybe Father might want to talk with me for a while.
I don't think so, dear. Oh, Dr. Jackson, will you explain to Miss Walden once more why she can't see her father?
Your father doesn't want you to see him while he's ill. You know, he likes to be at his best around you.
Stop treating me like a child. He's better and I'm going in there.
Miss Walden, those are your father's wishes.
And you wouldn't want to disobey him? Now, run along, dear. If you allow yourself to get upset like this, you'll be sick again, and you wouldn't like that.
You know, you remind me of a gal I used to know. Came from West Philly. Wrong side. Gorgeous redhead. White skin and the bluest eyes. Loved expensive things like you do, Audrey. Loved them like nothing human. Then I came along. Sounds funny, huh? Well, she fought against it, but it didn't work. I knew her for 6 years. She said in that time she had more fun than she ever dreamed of. She finally married a guy 20 years older than herself. She looks older than him now.
Short story.
Yeah, I don't know about books, but I do know that you keep living the same story over and over again. Sometimes it's more interesting.
Let's get something straight right now. I come from a little home on the banks of the Wabash, too. I know what it is to dream, and to someday make those dreams work.
Yeah?
Yeah. So you're wasting your time. I'm not your gorgeous redhead. I know exactly what I want. Nothing on earth's going to keep me from getting it.
Our kind of love might.
Sorry, Hank. Did you ever try to buy a new hat with moonlight and roses? My time is reserved strictly for the people who can afford it. So don't kid yourself about me.
Don't kid yourself, Audrey. Because I have an idea that you and I dance to the same music.
Oh, hold the wire just a moment, will you please? Hello? Oh, yes, Hank.
Received one wire, Emporia, signed Jim Rodgers.
You see, Jim doesn't forget.
You know I don't like to eat dinner alone. How about pinch hitting for a missing brother?
But you forget, don't you? When I say no, Hank, it doesn't mean 3 other things.
Okay, that leaves one lonely guy crying in his beer at Pete's place.
Goodbye, Hank.
Goodbye.
Hello? Sorry to keep you waiting. I want to order another 400 pounds of ice to be delivered to the Waldom home on Euclid Avenue.
Waldem's again, ma'am? Oh, we just delivered that amount last night.
This is a new order, please. And as usual, don't deliver the ice until after 9 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
How long do you know Eddie, the guy that gave me the envelope last night?
He's been hanging around here for years.
I paid him $5 for that envelope, and it was full of blank papers. Huh?
Nah, Eddie wouldn't do a thing like that. I ain't saying he can be trusted, because being honest ain't exactly his racket. But I do know one thing. Jim Rodgers is one guy Eddie wouldn't cross up.
You expect him in again tonight? I want to talk to him.
Well, could be. You know, you never can tell about these guys. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Well, if he should come in after I'm gone, tell him he can reach me at Jim's apartment.
Okay, but does it matter what time? You know, some nights he comes in awful late.
Hello?
Hello, looking for someone?
Yes. One lonely guy at a bar.
Present. Drink?
Mm-mm. I'm having dinner at a little restaurant about 2 blocks from here.
Good food?
Excellent. They have a table for 2, reserved in your name.
You've convinced me.
You can see I never plan ahead. It's fatal.
Yeah? It's fatal.
Yes, that dame's blossom. All kinds. Especially the kind I ain't got.
You know, when a guy's been by himself for a while, he gets some screwy ideas. Forgets about such things as having a girl of his own, a place he fits into, feeling he really means something to someone. I got you to thank for that, honey.
Sentiment coming from you, Hank? Somehow that doesn't quite seem to fit in.
It does now. You've made me feel new and clean again.
I like you too, Hank. So very much. I'm happy when I'm with you. That's why it's going to be so difficult for me, and I want you to understand. Really, I do.
Regrets, Audrey?
I don't regret anything I do. It's only...
Only what?
Only that people like us shouldn't get too involved with each other. We should play it for the laughs and the fun, but without entanglements. No ties that can't be cut in a hurry and retied just as quickly.
That sounds awful cynical.
But smart. That's the way I want it. That's the way it's got to be for you and me.
Maybe. But I got other ideas. Maybe after being up there for so long, I want to quit reading about life and start living it. You're set, baby. There's nothing else but for us to be together.
No, Hank. That's not the way I want it. There'll be many times when you won't fit into my plans. There'll be times I won't even be able to see you. How are you going to explain that to yourself?
I'll hang around. I'm used to waiting.
But why wait, Hank? Why not accept it as I want it? Otherwise, you're liable to be hurt. I can't promise you that you won't be.
I'll take my chance, and I'll bring you around to doing things my way.
Hank, don't plan too much on interfering. I like my life to be my own.
You forget, baby. From here on out, I've got an interest in that life of yours.
Hey, Rodgers, it's me, Eddie. I've been waiting for you.
Oh. Say, what's the idea of selling me those blank sheets of paper?
Oh, now, don't try to start nothing with me. That envelope was full of bills, ice bills. Jim needed them to crack open the case he was on.
Jim is in Emporia.
Emporia? Well, what's eating? He's right here in town.
Jim is in town?
Yeah, sure, that's what I've been trying to tell you. Why, he's... Ah!
But, Hank, nobody goes around throwing knives these days. You know, when you were a kid, I used to get quite a laugh out of you because you had such a good imagination. But you talk too much. Even when you got into your trouble a while back, You might have gotten out of it if you'd have kept your mouth shut. Now, we've covered the neighborhood, and no one saw anybody with or without a knife.
Yeah, I know. I'm nervous, and I got a bump on my head, and I admit I had a few drinks. But I heard Eddie start to tell me about Jim, and I saw him stand there and get stuck with that knife.
I checked with Harris at the Times, and he says he knows that Jim is in Emporia.
Okay. I'll go quietly.
You know, Hank, you've been away a long time, and things seem kind of strange to you. I've got a friend, a psychiatrist. He's been telling me what tricky things nerves can be, what strange ideas they can give you.
Uh-huh. That bump on my head.
You want the doctor to look you over again?
No, I just got a headache. I better go home.
You know, Hank, you ought to take up cigar smoking. It does wonders for your nerves. Nothing like lighting a fresh cigar, sit back, relax, and forget all your troubles. Here, you try a couple of them. See if I'm not right.
Yeah, I will. Thanks.
Hello? What is it? Wait a minute. Start over.
Look, when Eddie started telling me about Jim, somebody threw a knife at him. The police, they finally came, but they wouldn't believe me either. I got a bump on the head and...
Darling, whatever you're talking about doesn't make sense. I suggest you take an aspirin and go to bed. It's awfully late. I'll talk to you in the morning.
All right, Audrey, I'll talk to you in the morning.
Rodgers. Here we are, James Rodgers.
Oh, I see. Room 4. Those stairs?
Right up that way. Oh, I'll have to call first if you're going up. Rules of the house. Who shall I say is calling?
Tell him it's his brother.
Hello, Mr. Rodgers. Your brother's here to see you. He said he was taking a shower. He seemed pretty angry. You can go up now.
Thanks. Jim? Jim? Yes?
Hello. Say, I've been trying to get you all evening. You're supposed to stay close to that phone in case somebody calls for Rodgers. Hello, do you hear me?
I hear you.
Never been there, huh?
No, he hasn't.
Take a look at that. Go on, pick it up, read it.
Ex-wrestler raises blue ribbon carnations.
Who's it written by?
Jim Rodgers. Why, that's silly. Jim doesn't write that kind of stuff. That's for sob sisters.
Yeah, maybe he's turning into one. Here's the envelope in which he mailed the story. Look at the postmark. Emporia, mailed last night. Return address, State Hotel. You satisfied?
But it all checks, Hank. A newspaper like the Times wouldn't have any reason to lie about it.
I'm not saying they're lying. I'm only telling you he was never in that hotel.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to find him.
Oh, be sensible, Hank. Can't very well search for a guy who hasn't disappeared.
You really think I'm crazy, don't you? Well, I don't blame you. First, an empty envelope that wasn't empty. Then a knife and a guy who was never stabbed. And now somebody in a hotel room who wasn't there. Yeah, sure. I'm crazy.
Hank.
Hello, Audrey.
Where have you been? I tried all day to reach you.
I went to Emporia. Jim's never been there.
Yes. Yes, I know. I'm sorry you went all the way out there. You should have asked me first.
Ask you? Well, you're the one who told me he was there. Or have you forgotten that?
Please, Hank, don't get upset. I can explain.
Don't you start telling me I'm nuts and that this whole thing's a dream. I've already heard that.
Listen to me, Hank. I told you all I could. All Jim would allow me to tell.
Okay. What's the matter with him? Why didn't he get in touch with me just once?
I told you before. He's working on something big, something important, not only to him, but, well, to a lot of people. Right now, he can't reveal his plans to anyone. He wouldn't want us to interfere. Please believe me, Hank. And don't be cross with me.
I'm sorry.
Now, why don't you have dinner here? There's plenty of food in the icebox. I'll be back.
Do you have to go?
Yes, there's so much to do since Mr. Waldham's been ill. But I'll be back as soon as I can.
I'll be around.
You don't know Audrey at all.
Oh, yes, I do. And I know men like Hank Rogers. Let's see. Physical assets, perfect. Around 30. Interesting age, isn't it? Sure of himself regardless of his lack of culture. And do you know why he is so sure of himself, Mr. Madison? Because he's got that certain ageless charm that has always fascinated women. I think the French put it so well when they call it je ne sais quoi, meaning the indefinable, inexplainable. And yet it's paradoxical, too, because it's actually a possessiveness. A possessiveness that you want to be possessed by. And women love it, especially women like Audrey.
I guess I interrupted something.
How much does he know, Audrey?
Well, very little, actually. Of course, he's curious about Jim's disappearance, but you can hardly blame him after Paul's little impersonation at that hotel. I think I've convinced him everything's all right.
And how did you convince him, Audrey?
I think there are several ways. You needn't worry. He isn't too analytical.
I felt you'd be able to handle him. But if you're sure he can't do us any harm, we'll just forget about him for the time being. Now, how about dinner? Any suggestion, Paul?
Mm-hmm. Very bright suggestion, but it doesn't concern dinner.
I think you'd better come upstairs right away.
What's happened?
Just what I told you would happen to your Dr. Jackson.
I'll come with you, Agatha.
I'll be there in a minute. You know, I think you're right, Paul. There is only one kind of language a man like Hank Rogers understands.
You mean I can have my gun back?
No, that little plaything's too ineffective. Use that.
There, you see, just as I've said.
Dr. Jackson. Dr. Jackson.
Drunken fool.
Give me a hand, Agatha.
What's wrong?
Now I can understand why no one in your profession will have anything to do with you.
Anyone with a grain of sense would have known that from the very beginning.
We knew that, Agatha, but he's necessary to us.
I am perfectly all right. Perfectly.
And I suppose you're necessary, too.
Well, the little woman asserts herself. Careful, Agatha. Anger makes lines on the face. Here's your coat, Doctor.
Oh, yes. Pardon me.
Coming into my brother's house and running things. For years, I've taken care of his affairs, and excellently.
Oh, be still, Agatha. You're getting as much out of this as any of us, and with the least effort, too.
How can you lie like that? Why, if it weren't for me, you'd all...
We'd all what?
Here, what's the trouble?
Agatha seems to think we shouldn't have hired Dr. Jackson.
I didn't say that.
Please. Dr. Jackson,
Yes, Mr. Madison?
you'll have to straighten up. This'll all be over soon.
Well, you've got to keep her out of here. I can't stand it. Every time I turn around, she's watching me. And there's no telling what she might do.
I'm surprised that he was conscious enough to even notice me. No one else seems to be.
Don't start that again, Agatha.
Quiet, both of them.
Den of thieves. Snapping at each other. It always happens. Just before the end, the snakes devour each other. It'll be all over in just a little while. Won't it, Mr. Madison?
Yes, Mr. Rogers, it will be over in a little while. Tomorrow, when the stockholders' votes are counted, Richard Waldham will have been re-elected president of Amalgamated. At the same time, I'll be re-elected vice president, and we will have succeeded just as I told you.
Uh-huh. And by tomorrow, I'll have me a story that'll be so hot, it'll jump off the front page. Yeah. I wonder what kind of type we'll use. We'll want something to go with your interesting personality, Mr. Madison. Let's see. Old English? No, that's too delicate for you. I have it. We'll print it in longhand. Your hand, Mr. Madison. You write it. Make it an obituary.
You're a very amusing man, Mr. Rodgers, but no one will ever read your story.
Oh, you have plans for me?
Murder's not our business.
But I'll talk. You know I will. I'll talk and talk, and it'll be the loudest thing you've ever heard.
And when we finish with you, no one will ever believe a word you say. That is, if you're able to say it. Dr. Jackson? Come along, Margaret. Dr. Jackson can handle him now. Can't you, Doctor? I think that'll take care of things for a while.
What are you going to do with him after tomorrow?
Simply let him go. The police will find him sometime, perhaps even in the gutter. He'll be full of Dr. Jackson's medicine. They won't believe a word he says.
He will be all right, won't he? I mean, there won't be any serious after effects.
It seems to me you're showing undue concern about the welfare of our guest, my dear.
I'll get my rep.
You see, it's not only our plans I'm concerned about, my dear, it's also you. I don't intend to allow anybody or anything to interrupt our friendship.
I thought you'd gone out, Margaret.
I didn't go out. I heard voices, loud, quarreling voices. What's going on up in Father's sitting room? I want to know.
Nothing. There's no one there.
I'll see for myself. I'm going up
No,
there.
you can't do that. You can't do that, Margaret. Margaret, come back. Where are you going?
I'm going for Hank Rogers. He'll help me.
No, Margaret, don't do that. Come back. Come back, Margaret.
Hey.
It's you. Where have you been?
Well, I've been scared to come out, but say, listen, I got to talk to you about something. Let's go in. A guy's been tailing me.
Go on, beat it. You got me into enough trouble.
Yeah, but I got something to tell you about Jim. Listen, all I want's a little dough.
I'm not buying anything, see? And I don't want your playmates sticking knives into me.
Yeah, but I know something about Jim that you ought to know. Now, maybe he ain't where you think he is. Listen, it ought to be worth a $5.
All you've been trying to do is shake me down for money. I know where Jim is. Now, go on. Get out of here.
Get over to that car. This ought to work just right. Get in.
Well, why? I haven't done anything.
Just talk too much. And we mustn't let it happen again.
Oh, Mr. Rogers, thank heavens that you are so frightened when I heard someone in the hall.
Suppose you have an explanation for being here? Well, what is it?
I need your help. I want you to come back to the house with me. We're going into Father's room.
Well, why me, Miss Walden? It isn't any of my affair.
But I'm certain something's happened to Father. You're Jim's brother. If he were here, he'd help me.
Well, what's wrong?
I haven't seen my father in days. Don't you think it's strange, Mr. Rodgers, that a girl can't even see her own father?
Even so, I can't go busting in there.
But they're all out. Mr. Madison and Paul and the nurse. Dr. Jackson's probably pretty drunk by now. We could be in there before anyone knows about it. Please, Mr. Rodgers.
Nope, I can't. I don't want your father getting sore at me. It might ruin whatever Jim's working on with him.
Jim hasn't been around in days.
Yeah, but he's still working on something with your old man. I'm sorry, kid. Come on, I'll take you down to your car.
Hello, Margaret.
Paul.
What's the gag, Buttercup?
Don't tell me a smart guy like you can't figure it out. Get over there. Get over there.
What do you want, Paul?
Well, I certainly can't let you two go out of the house. Can I, Margaret?
Why can't you?
Me and my big mouth. I talk too much, don't I? And that lets you know too much, doesn't it? Well, I guess we'll have to have a party after all.
Paul.
Shh. Now, let me think. This has to be done with finesse. Oh, I've got it. You're a couple of lovebirds. And you're going to kill each other for love. Take your coat off, Rodgers. And you, Margaret, take off your dress. Oh, this will look marvelous in the tabloids. I can see it all now. A 2-page spread. Margaret Walden, wealthy society deb, found dead in ex-convict's apartment. Is it a triangle or is it a suicide pact? Lovebirds exposed by brutal murder. Now, let's see. Yes, this table should be turned over. And this chair. Margaret, I think you should be lying there with a light on your face. Now, how shall I do that? Oh, yes, I know. We leave the room all dark, except for that lamp. There. The lighting effect will be wonderful on your face, Margaret.
Paul, what's the matter with you?
Rodgers, I think I'll put you on the floor beside her. You can be holding her delicate white hand, all for love, in death as well as life, in death as well as flowers. Yes, Margaret, you should wear a rose in your hair. Soft sisters will eat that up. The lovely cameo-like face, masked in death, was reminiscent of another, more tragic scene. But stage no better.
Come on, Margaret, let's get to the house.
Pardon me. A telephone call for you, Mr. Madison.
Thank you. Excuse me. Hello? Yes? Yes, Agatha?
I've been trying to reach you all over town. Margaret's gone.
Gone? Gone where?
I couldn't stop her. She went to find Hank Rogers.
Oh, I see. We'll go right over.
What's the matter?
We've got to get to Rogers' apartment.
Why?
Margaret's gone to him for help. We'll have to get there before she upsets everything. Paul! Paul, what's happened? Can you tell us what's happened? Where's Rodgers?
Margaret.
Where are they?
The house.
Little fool's taking him out to the house. We'll have to go at once.
No. Perhaps it would be better if I went, Andrew. I can handle him better alone. You attend to Paul.
Yes. Yes, perhaps you're right. Detain him till I get there. I'll be out as soon as I get Paul to a doctor.
You shouldn't have let her go alone. Can't you see that's what she wanted? She's in love with him. She's gone to warn him. Don't trust her.
Ah. Perhaps you're right.
I know I am. I've tried to tell you. You've got to stop her.
Give me the keys to your car.
Oh, there, Eddie's in the back seat. I had to do it. He was going to kill me.
Stay here till I get back.
We're going into the old man's room.
What's the meaning of this, Margaret?
Yes, Aunt Agatha, we're going in to see Father. Nothing's going to stop us this time.
I am.
If you move that light over here again, you'll change your mind. Go on, kid, and ask him where I'll find Jim.
No, Margaret, don't go up there.
She's got a right to see her own father. What's going on around here? Why all the secrecy? Why can't you go up to see her own father? Come on now, speak up. Why? Go on. Go on. What's the matter, Margaret?
In there. My father.
We didn't kill him, Margaret. You must believe that. He died several days ago. Please, Margaret, listen to me. I want to tell you. We wanted the amalgamated stockholders to believe that your father was improving. Tomorrow they would have re-elected him president of the corporation.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
It all seemed so simple. No one was to know that your father had died before the election. It was going to be announced tomorrow that he had died after he'd been re-elected. Then, you see, Madison, who was vice president, would become president. It was the only way he could get control of the corporation. The stockholders would never have elected him president. He wanted to put through a deal, one involving millions. But Richard wouldn't stand for it as long as he was alive. I know it would have worked perfectly if that reporter hadn't discovered that Richard had died.
Jim. Where have you got Jim?
In the room through there.
Jim. Jim, it's me, Hank. Everything's gonna be all right.
Hank, don't. You heard me, Hank.
Sure. I heard you with my bad ear. That's been my trouble all along, my bad ear.
Don't call the police.
I've already called them. I'm trying to get an ambulance now for Jim.
I've got to talk to you, Hank.
It's pretty late to be talking, isn't it?
Yes, it's too late, I know, but Madison's on his way here now, and if he gets here before the police, he'll kill me, too.
Too?
I had no part in this whole thing, Hank. I was dragged in before I knew what their game really was. Tonight I told Madison I wanted to get out, and he threatened me.
Madison?
I knew it had to be now or never. I got away from him and came here to warn you. Hank, I love you. That's what's driven me almost crazy. I've wanted so many times to tell you the truth. I was scared.
Remember, Audrey, when I said we danced to the same music? Well, we do. Only you don't know all the steps.
Oh, don't preach to me. We all pay for our mistakes. You should know that better than anybody. Well, I paid for mine. Now I want to go away with you before it's too late.
I want that, too. I want that more than anything I've ever wanted. You see, I love you, too. I almost died when I thought you were mixed up in this. All right, we'll go down to the police station. You can tell them the whole story, how you got mixed up in this unknowingly. And when you realize what it was all about, you try to stop it. That way, you'll vindicate yourself, and then we'll begin from there, you and I.
Yes, Hank, we will. You're right. It is the best way. I'm in this pretty deep, Hank. There'll be a lot of explaining to do.
Yes, I know. That's a chance we'll have to take.
We've got to hurry. Madison will be...
Well, we both got here just in time, didn't we, Audrey? Rodgers, you put me in a very delicate position. What started as a simple little show suddenly became the most complicated business when you came into the picture.
All that double talk, Madison. Paul isn't around to do your dirty work.
That's a risk I'll have to take, won't I, Audrey? The two stakes were high, seemingly beyond my reach, but I did plan on winning them both.
You're too late, Andrew. You've lost.
Only on one count. I seem to find myself in a corner. When a man's in a corner, there's nothing he won't do to get out.
I didn't want to do that, Hank. I had to. I had to.
Yes, I know.
You're right, Audrey. Sometimes we have to do a lot of things we don't really want to do.
Stop her, Hank.
Sometimes it's necessary.
Listen to me, Margaret.
Necessary to rid the world of people like you.
Don't be a fool. She's going down to the police with me. It's better that way. She's not entirely at fault. Believe me, Margaret.
Don't you be a fool, Hank. She'll trick you. She doesn't intend going to the police.
So you see, Lieutenant, they didn't kill Richard Waldom. Died 5 days ago.
It was pretty smart of them to keep his body on ice until they wanted to announce the death. Of course, an autopsy would have proved almost the exact time he died.
But who would have asked for an autopsy? No one would have ever questioned my father's death.
I was the only one who knew. They fixed me so I couldn't talk.
Well, boys, it's been quite a night, hasn't it? We've rounded up Paul and the doctor. We're placing your aunt under mental observation. I'm sorry all this had to happen to you. Have you any plans what you're going to do now?
No, not yet.
Suppose you go to a nice hotel for a few days until things are straightened out. We'll help you.
That's a good idea, Margaret. We'll be around if you need us.
You come along, Miss Waldom. We'll take you down.
Oh, and thanks for the break on the story, Lieutenant. My editor is a very happy man.
Aren't you coming along?
No, I've got to get down to the office. I'll see you later.
Yeah. I'll meet you at Pete's place in 15 minutes.